Now, if you can live within that, because there's a beautiful side to that, you are unique. You are a one of one. There is no genetic combination that is like you on the planet that exists right now.
Truth.
And if you can take those times when you're alone to enjoy that and live with that and express yourself in your way, it will make other people gravitate towards you.
You tap into your own potential.
Yes.
Welcome, friends, to the Budo Brothers podcast. My name is David, and joining me, as always, are Eric and Kyle, founders of Budo Brothers. Guys, let's do this thing. You ready?
Ready to roll.
All right. So for this episode, I want to talk about two words and contrasting them and just exploring a difference between two concepts, two things.
Okay.
And those two things are being alone versus being lonely.
Ooh.
So I'm going to throw that out to you first and say, okay, let's think about this. How would you classify the difference between being alone and being lonely?
I think being alone is a proximity to people thing. Like if you are alone, you are by yourself. There is nobody else around you and you have no communication with the outside world. Being lonely, to me, is more about your internal state. If you feel like you're alone with your own thoughts or nobody's thinking the same way as you, feeling the same way as you, or understanding things the way that you understand it, you feel extremely lonely. What do you guys think?
I look at because there's beauty in being alone, in peace with your thoughts, in meditation or training or walking or hiking or anything that makes you present. When you do that alone, sometimes that's incredibly powerful, right? There's a lot of beauty to being alone. And loneliness is longing for the enjoyment of other human beings in your life. And we as social beings need that, whether we're introverts or extroverts, we all need it in our own ways. And the ability to interact with other humans helps us be fulfilled, right? It makes a fulfilling life when you can have meaningful relationships. And I totally understand where you can feel lonely when you feel like you are the only one that feels the way you do. That can definitely be a source of loneliness.
David, where do you sit?
So I'm all over the place on this one, but I'll break it down as best I can for you. When I'm asked this question, I usually tell people that being lonely is when you are emotionally on an island. Right. So you don't have the interactions that you need as a person, and being alone is awesome. That's how I see it. Now this does kind of touch on a whole introvert extrovert thing, right?
Sure.
So to touch on that real quick, as an extrovert, you are typically recharged being around other people and being in social situations. And that is how you get your fuel to keep yourself going. And when you are alone as an extrovert, you tend to get drained because you need to be out and among others, because that is where that is what fills your battery, right? Charges your battery. Mm-hmm. As somebody like myself, I'm very introverted. And so for me, being alone is recharge time. I have to have that. And being among others drains me in an instant. Which is very difficult, by the way, when you're running a dojo. I'm just going to throw that out there too.
I can imagine.
So there is that. But I know that that's how my battery gets charged, and it allows me to be out and among others. I have been in that situation where I have been in a room full of people or in an environment where I am surrounded by personalities and people and all kinds of activity, and I have felt incredibly lonely. And you kind of hit on it. It's a little bit of being misunderstood in that group environment.
Right.
And so there is a big difference. There is that emotional distance, which has you feeling like you are lonely. And then there is that physical distance, which is the alone. And there is great power to being alone if it's the right circumstance for you. But I think like anything, you have to have some kind of a balance to it, right? So there are times where you need to be alone. And there are times where, it's not like times where you need to be lonely, but honestly, feeling that helps me appreciate when I'm not.
Got it.
It's funny. I have a very pessimistic kind of view of loneliness. I truly believe everyone is lonely, like isolated within their own thoughts and their own personality, because everybody is different. It's kind of that saying, born alone, died alone. There is nobody on the planet who experiences things the way that you do, interacts with people the way you do, and perceives the world the way you do. So people can relate, but nobody can ever 100% relate to exactly what you're thinking or feeling at any given moment.
True.
And I don't know about you, but how many times in your life can you count the phrase, nobody gets it, nobody understands? Like, I'm the only one who thinks this way, or like, I'm the only one who, I wish people would see it my way. I really believe everybody is so unique that you're destined to loneliness. Now, if you can live within that, because there's a beautiful side to that, you are unique. You are a one of one. There is no genetic combination that is like you on the planet that exists right now.
Truth.
And if you can take those times when you're alone to enjoy that and live with that and express yourself in your way, it will make other people gravitate towards you.
You tap into your own potential.
Yes.
That's literally you being alone with you, which there is only one you, which is the ironic part. You just being allows you to tap into that deep potential, that potential of who you know who you are. You are who you are, and you start to go express that in the world. That's a powerful state. And that was rooted in loneliness, because only you alone can tap into that.
Another aspect of this too is that you tend to, as a human being, you tend to gravitate towards people that have similar interests.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is that feeling of not being so alone. As you guys know, one of the things that I try to dive into is just some like psychology, is just cognitive psychology. How does my brain, like, if you think of it as a mechanical thing, how does it actually run and work? And, I have always, throughout large portions of my life, felt like absolutely nobody understood me. And I was on an island, and I'm destined to be the weirdo, right? The misfit. And when I started reaching out and sharing those thoughts, and through like YouTube or on posts somewhere or anything else, what I found was kind of remarkable. And the remarkable thing was it wasn't anybody that was in my neighborhood that knew me. It wasn't anybody that was in my house, like people that I live with, my family or anything else. But I'd get a message from somebody in a different country, and they would say, I've never met somebody who thought this way. And you think like I do.
Right.
And it really resonates. And the things that you're saying, like, get out of my head. It's like you're in my life right now. And so I think there is a uniqueness to it, but there are other people that overlap in many, many different ways. And when you find those people, you really resonate with them. And so, just like you with, everything that you're doing with Budo Brothers, right? Is that you have these pockets of things that you do, right? And that you want people to be drawn to, and the right people come into that circle. And so when you start a business, you are lonely, right? Mm-hmm. It's just you and your idea and trying to make that. And so you look for that first person that's like, hey, what you're doing is really cool. And like, I'm kind of drawn to that. And you look for them to share that with another person. And then all of a sudden you've got this circle of people that have these very, very similar interests. And then you've got a little tribe.
And being an entrepreneur is super lonely. I'm sure it's the same as any creator, any painter or artist or dancer or person following their passion. It's an extremely lonely journey because nobody understands what you're going through in particular moments of time. And entrepreneurship is extremely volatile and stressful, and it's got highs and lows. And it forces you to start to learn to detach from outcomes and situations, or else you're not going to make it through.
Right.
You're not going to make it through. And it's very lonely. And sometimes you can reach out to people and they don't understand. I know one crazy thing that happened to me as I matured was after high school. I had a massive group of friends. In high school, you had so many friends and like communicated with people all the time. Then university, it narrowed out. After university, I still had a group of friends, but I started my journey in entrepreneurship. And speaking with people about entrepreneurship who aren't involved in it, it doesn't work. And I started to lose a lot of my friends, and where I was spending my time and energy was different than what they like to do. And it pushed me to hang out more with Eric, because Eric is an entrepreneur by heart, by blood, and that's what he resonates and he does. And we found a connection through entrepreneurship. And we both resonate there, and
we both help each other grow. It's like, it's this explosive cocktail.
And I don't know how business owners who are doing it by themselves do it.
I could not. And both Kyle and I have talked about this so many times. Budo Brothers would not exist without the brother.
Yes.
It's just a fact. Because when we are alone, we are only accountable to ourselves. And guess what? If we can bend the rules, oftentimes we do. We say, yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm going to kick up and watch Netflix. Because you're setting the rules, right? But then when you've got a partner who's expecting something from you, it starts to get this accountability. Hey, Kyle's counting on me to get this done. If it was just me and I want to watch Netflix, yeah, I could probably do it tomorrow. But I told Kyle that I was going to get this done tomorrow. And I want to be accountable. I want to be an accountable human being. So it keeps me creating, it keeps me doing, it keeps me moving. And I feel like having that helps the progression.
Connection is a super important part, and communication to not feeling loneliness.
Also, now, because what you said was really interesting there, right? So how do you keep yourself accountable when you are alone?
The toughest battle of them all.
I struggle with it nonstop.
Right?
I struggle with that today. I actually don't have a really good answer.
It's hard.
That's why personal trainers exist, life coaches,
absolutely,
business coaches. That's why they exist, because for some people, majority of people, it is hard to be accountable to yourself.
It is.
Now, so I have been working for myself since oh gosh, it's been going on 20 years, right around there, where I've not had a boss. I've had people that I've worked with, but I wouldn't necessarily call them coworkers because I'm always just in this sort of freelance state. And it took a long time for me to get over the idea, to understand the idea that if I don't do it, it does not get done. Mm-hmm. And if I have a longer view and say, okay, look, like, what is my day going to, if I'm, let's say I'm on a Friday today, right? What is my next Friday going to look like if I make the decision to sit down and play video games for 4 hours, mm-hmm. as opposed to doing 2 or 3 things that I have to do to just get my business to the next day. And I had been bitten so many times by not starting my own engine that way, that I'm like, it just came to a realization of like, what am I doing to myself? Like, and almost looking at myself. And it's weird because I didn't even see it as being alone. I looked at myself as hanging out with the me of next Friday. And if the two of us are sitting down, is the me of next Friday going to be like, dang, dude, you did a good job this week? Totally. Or is the me of next Friday going to be like, what the hell were you doing? Like, that was 4 bags of Cheetos and all the video games and you unlocked all the achievements, but like now I've got all this crap to do.
Right.
Right. And then that gives him crap with the Friday after guy. And like, so almost stepping back and looking at it as this long view of like, okay, like, yes, I'm alone, but I can still help the me tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And that's what finally got me past that whole thing where it was very difficult to get my own engine going, is just understanding that like, look, there is nobody else responsible. And I've got to be honest about it and stop playing the blame game. If tomorrow hits and I didn't pull it together mm-hmm. today, I'm so going to pay for it.
Right.
Here's a really deep question, but I'm going to go here. At what point in your life have you felt the loneliest?
Who are you throwing this out to first?
I'll start. I could recall a time in my life where I was at a bar and I was with my best friends and I was sitting there and just spouting off ideas about like Budo brothers and like companies and investing and just things that I was really passionate about at the time. And the people I were at the table with just kind of insulted it and just passed it by. And I was sitting at the table for the rest of the time and almost brought tears to my eyes. I was like, I feel so freaking lonely. I feel like a alien here. I'm here with the people that I'm supposed to be resonating and mm-hmm. connecting with and communicating the best. And I feel like nobody here understands me. Mm. And that felt so lonely. And I was wondering if you guys have any moments like that you could share.
Dude, what if you didn't push through that, right? Like if you're like, maybe Budo Brothers is a dumb idea. Maybe I shouldn't try this. Maybe I
it was
right?
Yeah. Well, it was a warning sign to me. It was a bell, an indicator that something right now in my life needs to change. I need to change my present situation so I do not have this feeling of loneliness. And I stopped drinking so much, like, hanging out with people and partying and drinking and just going out and being the life of the party. I just cut it. Yeah. It was not important to me anymore.
Right.
I put my focus and energy into things that I felt I was progressing, and I started putting energy towards the people that were helping to progress mm-hmm. that. And connecting to those people really helped to dampen the loneliness. And I'm very blessed because a lot of those people are my family. Like, I love hanging out with my family. I love hanging out with my parents and my sister. And I keep a small, tight-knit group now.
Right.
And it's kind of the opposite of what you think about with loneliness. You think, oh man, if I want to feel not lonely, I need to reach out to
50 friends,
like hundreds of people,
and parties with people calling my name. It's ironic.
So guess what? If you have 1 million followers on a social platform, that's not going to help your loneliness.
Yeah, and straight up, I guarantee there are so many influencers out there with 2 million followers who are the loneliest human beings on the planet because they don't have the connection. They don't have people in their lives. They're not on purpose, and they've become somebody that they're not, and they haven't connected to who they actually truly are. And that is a very, very lonely state.
A lot of the times too, people don't get that connection because they're scared to sacrifice. In order to have a relationship with anybody, you need to sacrifice some pieces of yourself. You can't always have things exactly the way that you want them, or else you can't have a relationship. That would be assuming that you are always thinking the same way at the same time. Eric and I get into spats and disputes and arguments and disagreements all the time.
Sure.
At some point, one of us has to concede to the other in order to carry on the relationship.
Sure.
And it's difficult. So making sure that you have a give and take and understanding the person. And I would say the most important part about building relationships and having a tribe full of people that you care about and talk to is communication. Communicating how you're feeling, communicating what you're thinking, communicating where you're at, because there is no way for a person to know what's going on inside of your head.
So I have to touch on this, right? Because this is a super deep question.
Sure.
And I'm gonna go back to a time where I was at my most lonely.
Okay.
Few years ago, I went through just a real bad depression that lasted a very long time. And just to give you a picture at this time, I've got, at this time I had a dojo approaching 100 students, classes, 4 to 5 days a week, typically. I'm walking around town. I'm pretty much like it was the only game in town. I live in a pretty small town anyway, but if I go to the supermarket or anything like that, somebody shouting sensei and sure. Some kids coming over and give me a fist bump and all this kind of stuff. It's like, just, I'd walk around with a relative that would come to visit. And at the end of just a single day, they're like, you're like Mr. Mayor in this town. Everybody knows you.
Sure. Yeah. Cool.
But I'd come home and I'd sit down and I'm thinking to myself, everybody sees me, but nobody sees me. And what I mean by that is you're seeing the person that's out there. You're seeing the body that's walking around. But in that head, that's where I was the most lonely. And I didn't understand myself, why I thought certain ways. I didn't understand why I did the things and reacted the way I did in situations. So I was lonely because I didn't know who I was through all of that. And sure, I was surrounded by people and there's, people everywhere, and I'm putting on the show. I'm putting on a mask in the morning, basically, and going out and being that guy. And through all of that, it was just this completely empty feeling. And it wasn't until I started trying to understand who I was, why I worked the way I did, why I thought that way, and to be okay with it. And to be like, you know what, I'm going to hang out with this guy that's inside my head, and we're going to understand each other. And once that happened, it was totally different. Everything became different. Right. Because I wasn't lonely anymore, because I knew who I was.
Right. Cool.
Totally.
You're no longer lonely once you figure out who you are.
Right.
I like that.
It was this huge revelation for me of like, wait a second. Like, I understand this guy that's always perpetually confused and thinking he's getting all this stuff wrong and is always full of insecurities and is always just the self-doubt was just crippling every single moment. And I'd go to the dojo and I'd teach the kids and all this kind of stuff. And I'd come away from it thinking I'm a fraud. I'm a failure. This is not working. They're seeing right through me. All of these huge feelings were just running rampant in my head. And it was only until I really got a handle on that and said, oh, okay. And started to analyze why I thought the way I did and what was actually going on, just like a mechanical brain aspect of it, where I could step back and I could be like, all right, like now I understand. I'm overthinking this because this is how I am. These are my insecurities. I know they're there. I recognize you. We're going to be okay. And once that happened, I was actually just really able to reach out and connect with people on such an easier way. And so I do think a lot of that loneliness comes from like, if you don't understand yourself, you are truly lonely.
Yeah. Interesting.
I have this trick I teach to kids when they ask, how do I make friends? And I give them 3 simple tasks. And I really I think that they boil things down to the ultimate simplistic way to attract people to you to prevent loneliness. The first thing I tell a child, if they ask me, is smile. Start off by smiling. You're more welcoming and engaging when you have a smile on your face. It's way easier for a person to relate to. The second thing was to listen. Listen to what the person is saying and take in the information. And the last part was to be interested and engage about that.
Ask questions.
Ask questions.
Right.
If you do those 3 simple things, you will never have problems meeting or making friends or learning about anybody. Because people just want to be heard. People want to share. And those 3 powerful things help kids who really are shy and timid at least start to learn to talk and engage with people that they don't know.
All it takes is remembering one fact about somebody. If you have a conversation with somebody and, it's a quick conversation, and to just show that you're invested in that person and they will feel less alone if you draw a fact out of them. Like, I'm going to draw a fact out of you. Okay, fine. You hate pineapple pizza, right? Pineapple on your pizza, right? You believe fruit does not belong on pizza. Hawaiian pizza shouldn't be a thing, right? And so if I remember that about somebody, and I see that person a few weeks later and I make a joke like, hey, I got some Hawaiian pizza for you. Right. It's that little connection of, hey, I met you, I saw you, I listened to you, and I remembered. And that is a huge way to help somebody else not feel like they're in that alone state that's misunderstood. Somebody took the care to remember a fact about me.
That's really cool.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Now, what about as far as being alone? Tell me what you do when you are alone to recharge. What is it like? What is the thing that you do when you're alone that is your prime alone time? What's the gift of being alone for you?
For me, it's creation. I get to create when I'm alone. When I'm alone by myself and I get to think of things that have not existed before, that is the most pure, beautiful state of being alone, where I can literally just dream, and that is the ultimate source of creativity. So that's what I love about being alone. I love being alone and creating. Creation is the beautiful state that we can exist as human beings. We are creators. We create ideas. We create solutions. We create new products. We create new businesses. We are creative by nature. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, it doesn't matter. We're all creative, and we all create in our own way. And that's what's so cool, is that we all get to find our own way. And at the end of the reality is we get to create our own way.
Love that.
Kyle, what about you? What about what's your prime thing? Like, what's the gift as far as being alone for you?
Reflection and analysis. It allows me time to sit with my feelings, my emotions, my thoughts, and check in. How am I doing? Where am I at? What am I feeling? Am I doing the right things according to the right emotions? Am I too hostile right now? Am I too happy right now? Am I working hard enough? If I'm not, should I be doing this? It allows me to observe myself. And I usually love to do it either through meditation or thinking or just being alone with music or whatever the case is. And it allows me to get into flow, a state of flow, because I analyze, okay, what do I need right now in this moment in time? And right now, I feel like dancing. Okay, I'm going to dance a little bit. I'll sometimes listen to like some hip hop and just throw some dance moves. Right now, I want to create something. I want to edit videos. I listen to what it is that I need at that moment in time, and I fulfill that. And nothing feels better with doing the right thing at the right time and getting into that flow state.
Love it.
I'd say for me, it's that, my alone time is when I'm writing and when I'm creating. And so there is nothing more precious than having the time and space to sit down. I've got a page open in front of me. I'm ready to put words down and create and write a story. I put the noise canceling headphones on. Everything just tunes out. Everything is just quiet. I don't have to worry about the bills and the car and it's just like all that nonsense that's in the day to day. I get to go into my own head where there is this huge vivid world and try to pull it out and put it on a page so I can show somebody some other time. And so for me, that alone time is that time where I get to dive into my own creative brain and manifest it in front of me in the real world. And I don't think there's really anything more precious for me than that moment.
Beautiful.
So do we have some kind of a Budo Brothers challenge as far as being alone versus being lonely or being less lonely or capturing your alone time? What can we do for somebody here?
Budo Brothers challenge. Create the space where you can be alone. No phone, no music, no stimulus, no TV, there's nothing. You are purely alone. And it sounds negative, like, oh, I'm alone. No, it can be incredibly beautiful. And try to see the beauty in being alone, where you can create, where you can let your thoughts go wild and you can dream up new solutions and create new businesses and serve other people. That is that creative space that takes place by you, yourself, and I. It's just you. So try to create a space where you can be alone and create. That's the Budo Brothers challenge. What are you going to create?
Awesome. Any final thoughts on alone versus lonely, gentlemen?
And also, if you're feeling super lonely, make sure you reach out to us online, subscribe, hit us up on our channels. Don't forget, Budo Brothers on any of the podcast things, internet things. We'd love to hear from you.
As long as this podcast is in your ear, you're never really alone.
That's right.
So just think about it that way.
And that's what's so cool is that
we're hanging out with you right now.
For sure. Because guess what? We are coming into people's cars. We're coming into people's headphones. We're reaching people wherever they are, and they're tuning into the exact conversation that we're having. And hopefully they're learning and growing as we are live on this podcast, because that's what this podcast is about. It's about learning. It's about growing, and it's about creating. And thank you for listening is all I want to say.
Awesome. All right, gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up right there. Thank you guys so much. This was a great one. I feel less alone now. Awesome. It's very nice.
We got you.
I will talk to you on the next one.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone. Yep, bye-bye.